All right, people, good afternoon. A little bit later in the afternoon now, and the Seahawks have wrapped up their final open training camp practice of the year. So if you wanted to attend a training camp session this year, I hope you already did, because none of the remaining ones are going to be open to the public. To anyone who did go, I hope you guys had fun. But we're going to be picking through the updates we got throughout the day on the practice that just happened and see what there is to say. Again, we're kind of at the point where I feel like the main update we get from these camp sessions is just injury stuff. The stuff we actually see on the field with players is cool, but we're definitely at the point now where we just want to see it in an actual game. Real quick, before I get into this stuff, though, first of all, please like this video, subscribe if you're new, click the bell for notifications, become a channel member for $2 a month. Best ways to support the channel. But I said in the video this morning that I would be doing a celebratory stream when we hit 20,000 or streaming to hit 20,000. As of me making this video, we are at 19,998 subscribers, so we are 2 away. And obviously, I expect to get there tonight, especially after this video goes up, especially after I stream. However, I was out longer than I expected today, and more importantly, the Seahawks practice took longer to end than I expected today. I thought this was going to be done by like 2:30. I could have the video up by 3. Maybe I'd be streaming by 3:30, and everything would kind of fall into place, but I'm probably not going to get this video up until like 4:45, pushing up close to 5. It doesn't really make sense for me to do a stream and then just immediately have to end it because I need to go eat dinner. So we're going to move the stream to after dinner. We're going to do it during the evening. And sorry to anybody who maybe planned on an afternoon stream. Maybe they made sure they cleared their schedule for that part of it. I doubt anybody did. But if anybody did, I am sorry about that. But I thought this practice was going to be over way earlier than it was. It was actually just a few minutes ago that I got indications that the dust had cleared, that the smoke had cleared. And again, it just doesn't make sense to turn on the stream for 15 minutes to celebrate hitting a milestone or pushing to the milestone. And yeah, it's not going to be a big deal. I'll just turn on the stream probably sometime around 6:30 or 7. And we'll either celebrate getting there or we will push our way to the last few subs. Okay. With all that out of the way, let's talk about this training camp session. Last general public one again. Okay, so one person who is back in the building today, or I guess they practiced outside, which could not have been easy, but back in the facility is Ernest Jones. His father's funeral service has wrapped up and he is ready to go. He is a full go, no injury indications at all. So not that there was ever any real concern about this Ernest Jones thing bleeding much further beyond where it already had, but certainly good to see him back. Certainly happy to see him in the building and ready for him to be a big part of what we do this year on defense. Curtis Allen caught Charles Cross doing drills with a black wrap on his hand. Again, the anticipation was he wouldn't really be able to do anything until after the last preseason game, so we remain very, very far ahead of schedule, and we should be happy that he's out there doing anything, and there's every reason to believe he will be ready to go when the lights come on. And the things that I read indicated they never planned on playing him in the preseason anyway, so no real loss. Another player who was out there for practice today was Ken Walker. He was in pads. He did all the work as near as I could tell. He did all the drills. He did the teamwork. Again, this was a full practice. It was not a walkthrough like yesterday. And by all accounts, Walker can do everything. So it doesn't seem to be injury related. It'd be kind of weird if a player went from no practice to full bore practice in one day if there was an injury. So this must just be some kind of load management thing, and it's cool. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. And obviously, this is a big part of what we hope to be in 2025, and it's great to see. We're at least off to a good start there. One guy who was not out there, Brady Henderson here, Oluwatimi. Oluwatimi remains out. Today was I don't want to say it was the day when people expected him to be back, but it was one of the days where people expect him to be back. The early indication from McDonald was it was going to take a couple of days. And it's now been a couple of days. I was hoping he could get back out there. At this point, I don't know if it's reasonable to expect him to be out there against the Chiefs. And look, I think Oluwatimi's kind of got the starting job on ice, but it's still not good for him to not be out there right now. So I'm not really liking what I'm hearing here, but it doesn't seem severe. I still want him to go out there and earn this starting job instead of getting handed it. And right now, that's kind of the feeling I get, because I don't get the sense that Sundell is doing anything to really separate himself. And that's kind of the storyline. Not that he's been bad, but I'm not getting the sense he's running away with it. Curtis Allen called out a couple of things about the way in which the Seahawks were deploying their players. Maranguez was the number 2 center in the early drills behind Sundell, which means that, well, it doesn't mean this, but Phil Haynes, wow, Phil Haynes, that is a throwback. Christian Haynes was a right guard with the 2, so he's back at right guard, trying things out. I don't know if they just can't find anywhere he looks competent. By the way, for whatever it's worth, I thought Christian Haynes looked pretty good against the Raiders at left guard. I know that a lot of people didn't feel that way, but I thought Haynes looked good in that game. So my thinking is you want to keep him on that side. Maybe they're trying to build flexibility, but it is worth noting that he's getting right guard reps with the 2s. Maybe he's jumped Lomea. Maybe he's, well, obviously you can't say he jumped Sundell because Sundell's working at center. I don't know. That whole thing is a little messier than I would have liked. I'll put it to you that way. And I understand that it is what it is, that Maranguez just happens to be the next center up, but really feels like the reps we're giving him are just wasted. Can we just get Haynes at center during days like this and let him practice snapping? I think that's more likely to produce a good result, or a meaningful result at least, than Maranguez by a long shot. I don't know, just a thought. Pat O'Connell was with the ones next to Ernest Jones. Remember, Tyrese Knight is out. This is notable because the other day, it was Drake Thomas who was with the ones a little bit more than O'Connell, it looked like, which I thought was maybe an indication that they were liking Thomas more than O'Connell, but maybe they're just mixing and matching stuff around. I'm a little bit cold on O'Connell at this point because I just don't think his athleticism is enough, but it looks like they're still trying to experiment and figure out what their depth situation is at linebacker, which good for them because we need to figure that out. One particular alignment that Curtis Allen called out during the day, again, keep in mind there are a handful of players that are out, so Peely and Bohanna were inside, so they were going jumbo, like 2 nose tackles out there basically, and then they went Woolen and Job as the outside corners, Love as the deep safety, and Brian as the strong safety, which I think is atypical, and it speaks to this defense's desire to have safeties that are ubiquitous. And this is the kind of stuff that we need to work. We need Kobe to be able to play in the box, and we need Julian to be able to play deep, or else the defense won't be all that it can be. And then you have Emin Wari as kind of a linebacker secondary guy. It's more indications, man, that we got big plans for this guy. They call out Witherspoon in the nickel, and then they got Emin Wari as like a will. I think that he's certainly got the size for it. His skill set may not really lend itself super well to playing linebacker in this scheme, but they may look at him and go, that's better than Drake Thomas. That's better than Pat O'Connell. It would not be hard. No disrespect to those 2 guys, but they just don't really have NFL experience. But this caught my attention for a couple different reasons when he mentioned, Curtis, that this was an alignment they were using. We also had a little bit of a highlight here from, I'm not going to play the clip again, but Jalen Milroe hitting Cody White. And generally speaking, I think the sense out of this practice was that Milroe looked pretty good. The guy getting spotlighted here, of course, is Cody White, because he had a really rough preseason game, and he's a guy who is probably on the outside looking into the roster right now. But the thing that Greg Bell says here that cannot help but catch your attention a little bit: White continues to consistently perform route running, catching, feet. So he's doing it in training camp, I guess, but it's hard for me to believe that's gonna be enough if we don't see it in a game at some point. At least not to make the roster. Maybe he can get back on the practice squad again. I know he's been there before. But this is definitely an interesting wrinkle. If White is really standing out strongly throughout training camp in a way that we're not getting in the game, I do wonder how much this team will weigh that. Because White may have been, I don't want to go that far, but if you were to make a list of every Seahawk that played in that preseason game, Cody White would be right at the bottom if you were ranking it from most effective to least effective. Brady Russell still getting some work at fullback, lining up with the backups with the fullback position. It's going to be interesting, right? No team that I can think of in the modern NFL would even think about carrying two fullbacks. But I do wonder if maybe there's a plan to just say Brady Russell's the third tight end. We boot out Eric Saubert, and Brady Russell's just tight end 3, fullback 2, emergency long snapper, special teamer. That may be the way this goes, and I love flexibility. I love being able to find depth at multiple places with one player. I'm starting to feel like this is the way it's going to go. They really seem to have a thing for Brady Russell. I remember this team picked him up several years ago, I think off of Philly's practice squad. I didn't really think too much of him. Of course, you just figure he's a body, but he's really carved out a pretty permanent role for the 2020 era Seattle Seahawks here. Very interesting how he's found his way here. Another point that Curtis Allen made: Marquez Valdes-Scantling was back with the 1s in the scrimmage portion, and Horton was with the 2s. That is the first time in a while I've heard MVS working with the 1s. In fact, that is one of the first times I've heard MVS's name all of camp. Now, I don't think this means that the Horton hype is dead. I think that they just want to give people a chance. I think they just want to give MVS a shot. They don't want to bring him in here as a starter and then just never play him with the starters and then bench him when the season starts. Arroyo was playing with the 3s, and he caught a bullet from Milroe. I don't know what to make of that. Arroyo playing with the 3s is weird, because remember, that first depth chart we got before the Raiders game had him as the third tight end behind Saubert. Hard for me to believe that holds. I do wonder if they see something with him they're a little bit reticent to promote him beyond that with. I do wonder if maybe they're looking at Arroyo and going, he's got to earn this, and we got to see a little bit more from him. Or if they just want to give him reps with Milroe. I don't know. I definitely think Barner's going to be the number 1 tight end. I think that's a no-brainer. I don't know what to think about this, though. It may not mean much, but I would certainly want Arroyo with the 2s. Even as someone that isn't a huge fan of his, he's clearly got to be the second best tight end immediately on this team. If he's not, then that's really bizarre. But anyway, yeah. Horton, back to Horton though. He did take advantage of playing with the second team today. He caught a deep crosser from Drew Lock. Really nice pass from Lock. I know a lot of Seahawks fans are a little bit. The sense I get from a lot of Seahawks fans is they're really checked out on Lock and they want to move on to something else. And I kind of get it, but this guy is still a very viable backup, and I think he provides something that this team really needs. So I don't think he's going anywhere. And even if it's just showing up in practice and providing quality reps for a guy like Tory Horton to build experience, I think that's still worth it. And final note of the day I got from Curtis Allen was Milroe with another really nice throw, rolls out to his left and hits Tyrone Broden on the sideline. Those two guys, man. Those two guys, a lot of talent. If they can put it together, you might really have something. If they can actually hone their talent, you've got something impressive. And obviously, Broden's a super long shot. I think Milroe's a bit of a long shot too, but it is fun to dream. It is fun to think. And to my knowledge, that was like the last notable play of the practice. We did, however, get some stuff from Kubiak after the practice was over. He talked in front of the podium for a little bit. He had a couple of quotes that Greg Bell passed along. According to Kubiak, his entire scheme is now installed, and now they're just accumulating reps, which is quite a thing to say. This is his first year as a Seahawk. This is the first year he's working with some of these guys. I know he technically worked with Darnold before. I know that there's some commonalities between some of these players and where Kubiak has been before, like MVS. A lot of these guys are new, though, and I remember in previous years when the Seahawks would hire a new coordinator, the sense was that the scheme would not get installed until near the end of the season in full, and they'd be going kind of just half and half for most of the season, like when Waldron got brought in. The indication was that it was mostly going to be Schottenheimer's offense, and Waldron would just slowly implement his stuff over the course of the season. So this is quite something to say that we're not even halfway through August yet, and he's saying everything's installed. That's pretty cool, though. I gotta say, if that's the case, maybe we got something here, because part of the, how should I put this? Part of the reservations that I think some Seahawks fans have about the season, rightfully so, is learning this new offense. It's going to take time, but maybe it's not going to take as much time as we thought. Kubiak also talked a little bit about the competition at center. He called Jalen Sundell and Olu Oluwatimi two of our smartest players, and he indicated the competition remains on. Maybe it's on by default because of the injury, but again, I'm just not seeing any reason to believe that it's going to be anything other than Oluwatimi barring injury. I don't know. Maybe there's things going on there that I don't know about, but I got to be honest. Seems to me, based on the feedback that I've seen, is that Oluwatimi looks much better. Okay, that's about it. Like I said, going to be streaming later, probably sometime around 7 o'clock if I had to guess. And we're going to be celebrating 20,000. Like I said, as of me looking at it right now over here, we are 2 away. We are 2 away from 20,000. Good chance we get there by the time I turn the stream on. Even if we don't, then we'll get there during the stream. All right. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Go Hawks. And that's the latest from Seahawks training camp.